So I decided a police car build would be pretty cool, Japanese police car. I'm going to do my 4th gen Prelude up as a cop car because they actually use those a little bit as police cars. Now there's pretty much only 2 things that make up a Japanese police car, or a car that appears to be a Japanese police car. It's a paint job and the light bar on the roof and the badge on the front. That's pretty much it. So we'll get work on the lights today. I've got the paint over there, which is partially on the way, but the lights need a bit of work. There's a video I'll put in the description of when I actually got them. But basically, they need the lenses cleaned up, they need the ends filled in red because these ones are orange for some reason, but they're cheap, and it needs the Megaphone, which should be inside this area, but it's not in there anymore, so we'll wire that up. But I think we'll start with the Megaphone. So on the on the back of the bit that goes in, like the head unit part that goes in the dash, it says it needs a 8 ohm Megaphone up to 35 watts. And I found this at J-Car for like $15, I think, roughly. I bought ages ago, but anyway, it's 8 ohm, 30 watts. That should be a good replacement. There was a much smaller one that would definitely fit in here, but it's not going to be anywhere near as loud, so I figured I may as well go the big one. But it is slightly too wide to actually fit inside here, so we're going to have to cut it down a little bit. Hopefully, it looks like we should be fine lengthwise, but we're going to have to cut the edges of the horn down. So I think I'm just going to cut it with the angle grinder. Is probably the easiest thing to cut it with. There we go. I'll just sand the edges down flat. Okay, so it looks a fair bit smaller than I was expecting it to after cutting it down. Hopefully we haven't lost too much volume or anything out of it, but either way I'm sure it'll be loud enough considering I don't actually plan to be pulling any people over in my pretend police car. So I'll just get all the edges off it and then see if it actually fits in the light holder thing. So I think that's about as neat as it's going to look. See if it actually fits in the space, which it does. Actually, it's not going to fit with the oh no, maybe it will fit with the foot underneath it. Oh, it's pretty big to fit in this little tiny gap. Yeah, okay, so I reckon if I make like a smaller foot or a smaller mount for it, it looks like it should just fit inside underneath the stainless covers. The problem is the wire's going through it and there's a bush inside it. So I'm going to have to take the screws out, see if we can get the back off, thread the wire through and then cut this bottom piece off. One thing I'm worried about taking this apart is I don't want to get bits of metal filings and stuff in there, it'll be all crackly and shit. Don't want to spend money on a new speaker for it to be ruined by me doing something dumb. Wow, there is not much in this thing. I guess it was cheap though. Wow, there's so much, it's so much crappier than I thought it was going to be inside. And this bit here is obviously the so this is the magnet for the speaker. This is what acts as the diaphragm. You can see the coil around there. So this coil should fit in that slot, and then this gets magnetized and pushes against this magnet to vibrate. And the sound goes, looking at this before I drop all the screws out of it, the sound travels up the center of this cone, then is reflected off the end of this and then back down out, and then back around this outside of this cone and out through the thing. So I was wondering if I'd be able to cut the end of this off if it's too long. It's not too long, but looking at this, if you cut that off it really won't work, so I'm glad I don't have to modify this piece. Now that our bottom piece is gone, this actually fits and everything fits now without any outside dimensions. Now it looks like there's 4 threaded holes here. I'm guessing that's where the other one, the original one, would have been screwed down. When this is in there, it blocks access to the front two, but the back two are still there. So I think I'll just go away quickly and make a little bracket that'll go across there and probably just Tech screw it into the bottom of this. But it would be nice to reuse the original bracket wherever it's gone. I tried to cut it off square, so I was hoping maybe I could glue it on up here or something, but it's going to end up being too tall, so we'll just dodgy something up. The other thing is the wires came through this rubber bush, so whether the rubber bush was there for, this is an outdoor speaker, so it might be for waterproofing, but it also might be because this has to be a sealed chamber for the sound to work properly, like a subwoofer box, like a non-vented subwoofer box. So depending on how lazy I feel, I might reseal that up in an effort to maintain some sound quality after cutting the edges of the horn off. So I've just cut this piece out that bolts down to those two holes, which is exactly behind the little crossbeam you can't see. So it bolts down to wherever it is, the holes, and it ends up right there. Ideally what I would like to do is just drill a hole through the Megaphone and bolt it straight to it, but the problem is it ends up right where the black like screw-in piece is. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'll weld a small extension onto this so I can screw it into this section, and with any luck I'll be able to pull this black grommet out and jam it in there, and then keep the original like waterproof, sound, airproof thing going. One bracket. Okay, so there's our bracket, which will just bolt on the bottom there. This block here is like a thick solid piece, so I'm going to just drill and tap 2 holes into that, and we'll drill matching holes in this bracket, and then the Megaphone's ready to be mounted up. Yeah, so that's pretty good. The original little waterproof rubber thing fits back in. That's our, hopefully, wherever the camera's gone, should all be ready to go. Next thing I've got to figure out is how to wire this into the plug that's there. Alright, so that looks like it all fits in there nicely. It's not touching the cage or anything. It wobbles a little bit because that flat bit of aluminium wobbles, but I think it should be right. If it causes a problem, we can reinforce it a bit, but for now that'll definitely do. I guess next thing I'll have a look at is getting the wire from the speaker down to where the plug is. So depending on how long this video is, I might do the lenses in a separate one, but if they fit, it'll be in this one. Man, these old school lights are super cool with the mechanical thing. Also just noticed that there's mirrors here, and these ones are broken, or at least like slightly broken. That's a bit of a shame. Probably figure something out to fix those, or maybe take them off altogether, or maybe just put it straight. Anyway, it's impressive how heavy this is as well. You can see the whole thing's just based on this extruded aluminium. The plug is here. Now I have no idea what kind of plug this is, and this is set up in such a way that if you watched the other video where I unboxed it, the outside lights are controlled separately to the inside ones, and that's because the outside ones are separated by this reflector, so they're pretty much just orange, so you can have orange lights or red ones, but I just want all red, so I'll probably wire them in such a way that they're just powered off the same wire. The other thing is this weird 6-pin, it's a 6-pin plug, actually it's a 7-pin plug, but it's only got 5 pins in it. I don't know, I don't have the female side to this, so I'm probably just going to cut it off and start again. The easiest thing to do, I guess, is these lights look like they unbolt and they'll slide out of the extrusion, so we'll pull those out first. Oh, hey, it's convenient, yes. They were nice enough to put each light unit on its own individual plug. So, if you saw this in the other video, you can see the motor literally just spins this little peg, and that rubs on the rubber part of this, and the motor's got a little like spring attached to it to keep the peg tensioned on the side to get it to run, which is pretty rad. These old mechanical lights are awesome. Another detail on this that I haven't noticed before is there's a light socket here as well, the same as one on the other side. They don't actually have contacts or wires or anything run to them. Like you can see there's the holes for the contacts, but there's no contact in there. I'm guessing that that's to hold a spare bulb, which is pretty cool. So like these are pretty quick to take off. You just undo these 2 end screws and the cap slides off. Then you've got your spare bulbs actually held inside it, which is pretty awesome. Turns out this thing is not wired how I thought it would at all. You'd assume that these plugs would just be positive and negative, and then they'd be connected to the motor and the globe. If you look at them, the plugs are just positive, and then they're actually bridged, so you're just getting the same, like this one yellow wire is connected to the bottom pin and it's connected to the top pin. So this is just power for both of them, and they use a common ground like a car, like the whole thing is just the ground. And on the bottom side of the lights, I would expect just a direct connection to the motor and light, but it's actually running through a diode and a capacitor. I'm not sure why. A capacitor is like a filter for electronics, and this is a diode which is effectively a one-way valve. So I'm not sure why they would do that, because this incandescent globe will work whether you power it backwards, and this motor will just spin the opposite direction if you power it backwards. It doesn't matter which way they go. They do actually have a thing on them that says counterclockwise, and that's counterclockwise. Oh, hang on, these ones clockwise? Yes. Oh, that's cool. So they get like the nice correct reflection of the red light spinning around. These are both clockwise, counterclockwise. These are both clockwise ones, so that's interesting. So we have two clockwise ones on one side, and one counterclockwise and one clockwise one. So I reckon this has been repaired at some point, maybe. I might power it up and have a look at it, because I feel like when I had it last time turned on, like these went one way and these went the opposite. But either way, there's a bit more electronics than I expected, but when we power them back up, we'll make sure they're going opposite directions, and if they're not, I'll rewire them so they go the right way. So looking in here, there's this one spare one here with a grey and black wire, so that was obviously what went to the Megaphone originally. I don't have one of these white plugs, but that'll just accept spade connectors, so I'm just going to put spade terminals on the end of this, run it in underneath, and then we'll plug the Megaphone into that. I'm still undecided what I'm going to do with this plug though. Now, when we had this apart, you saw it was just that single coil, so I'm not sure if it really matters which side's positive and which side it is negative. And also one has the line to mark positive or negative, and one has no line. And I also forget what the standard is for which one is which, so I'm going to guess the line. I'm going to put the one with the line into the brown cable. I'm going to put the one without the line into the black cable. And in the end, nothing really matters. Cool. Megaphone is now wired to this plug that we can't use. Need a knife. We don't have any knives, they're all missing. So I've decided for testing purposes, I'm just going to cut this off and put spade clips on the end of it, and then figure out what I'm going to do once I've actually got the car and what size plug I'm going to run and stuff like that. Normally I'd be freaking out cutting a plug this close because I can never use it again, but I've no idea what this is from, so whatever. Now the only difference between these red and the blue plugs is the blue ones are for a bigger, higher current wire, and the red ones are just smaller, so there's no reason using up all my big ones when I can put some little ones. I've also wired the red and yellow plug into one because I see I don't have any want to run the inner and outer lights independently, so they're joined together now. Far out. So I can actually see the bulbs very faintly glowing because it draws way too much current. And this one's just moving. Let's take the bulbs out. So all we have to do is turn the motors. Hopefully this little power supply will cut it then. Ready, go. There we go. That one's way faster than these ones, which looks kind of retarded. But so they're both going that way. They're both going the same way. This one here is going the wrong way, which is what we suspected. It says counterclockwise. That should be a clockwise one because we want the lights to be going out and sweeping around like this. This one's going the wrong way, and it's going faster than all the other ones, so that's all around not helpful. More evidence to suggest this is a replacement unit. This screw, they all have these big flat washers, and this one is missing, so pretty sure this has been swapped in here. So I literally just unsoldered the two connections on the bottom of the motor, switched them around, put them back on the other way. See if that's changed the direction that it spins now. Hopefully it has. There you go. That one's still going too fast. I don't know why it goes so much faster than the other ones. But they're all going the right way now at least, and it makes a funny sound now, which is... Oh, actually it's probably making a sound because it's not actually bolted on properly. Oh yeah, if I push on it, it stops making a weird noise. Anyway, I wish it wouldn't go so much faster than the other ones, but that's getting into fine details that I don't want to deal with, so yeah, I guess we'll screw all the lights back together. So I really wanted to see it going with all the lights and everything. So I've paralleled up to laptop like wall power supplies and cut the end off them. And I've changed it came with these big 35 watt globes and I put 25 watt ones in it. And they've just got enough to keep it going. So these is it's a 4 amp and a 5 amp. And it says it draws 10.5, so with the smaller globes, we're powering it just though. If I like stop it, I don't know. I stopped it before and it couldn't get itself going again, I had to flick it, but looks cool. Okay, so I was too excited to get it all going at once. I actually discovered there was always this button here that looks like the siren, but it never worked when I played with it. And I realised that it actually switches this grey wire, which for whatever reason isn't listed or labelled on the back, but I've wired that up as a switch to trigger this relay to turn the lights on and on, so now I don't have to have a separate light switch. The actual controller controls everything like it should. I've got 2 computer power supplies and the benchtop power supply to get enough amps, but it does actually start the lights now when I press it. You can hear it click the relay a few times as it starts to die. So that works, and then the siren works. It's super loud, but yeah, I couldn't help getting it all put together roughly so I could see it all working with all the lights going and everything. It's sick. So I think this video has run on long enough. I'm going to call it at that, and then in the next video I'm going to get on to restoring the actual lenses themselves.